All right, what's up, everyone? I hope you are doing amazing and feeling great. I wanted to hop on real fast just to share some kind of how you should approach this topic and how you should think. I found that whenever I share this information online, especially on Reddit, and maybe that's just because it's Reddit, but people will never look at the evidence that I provide them and their idea or their perspective is the only correct one. Anything else is just completely wrong. So I wanted to kind of dive in a little bit and just kind of share, how I've come at this, from my point of view, and how I've basically, you know, realized that this stuff is completely real. It's not fake or anything. And that's aside from my own personal experiences. When people, or how about I started like this? um, the way that they do this is they use a tactic that is perspective manipulation, right? So let's say if I were to post something online and I'm trying to, showcase, hey, you guys, look, this here, actually, I have an example right here. Like, this is what's going on. Like, for this video right here, it's, showing the exact same thing that the Jake Barber team, Skywatchers, has been presenting compared to the plasmoid anomaly study group. And not only that, but this is also similar to what we see in the Immaculate Constellation document and the Project Condon and many more. The extraterrestrial life in the thermosphere and plasma four state of matter document. They all describe these things having some sort of appendage, and there have been many sightings to have seen the exact same type of physical characteristics, right? So yeah, so it's pretty cut and dry, but let's see what people say. Drones. Yeah, so you could see the string, blah 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 blah, right? But for this one specifically, for these two, you will notice that it's not moving. They aren't swaying or anything like that. It's completely rigid and almost like like an appendage or something like that. Like, for instance, the jellyfish UAP, right? Like, that thing was not moving. There was no wiggling or moving around in it. It was just a fixed position. And that's exactly what these things are doing as well. It's just an appendage that seems to hang down, and this is your typical jellyfish UAP that we can refer to the Immaculate Constellation document right here. Let's go down and we will read the characteristics of these things. Let's see. Jellyfish flare. The UAP flew against the wind with no visible means of propulsion, maintained an unnatural rigidity in its movement and flight path, and maintained a comparatively low altitude due to geographic features. Yeah, so this is exactly what we see in the plasmoid anomaly study group pictures. Just a natural rigidity. Here we go, right here. Irregularly shaped UAPs, those that defy simple geometric descriptions, were among the rarest reported sightings. Shape-shifting UAPs also appear in the dataset, typically having a spherical or disc-like base form from which irregular geometries are seen to project. Floating brain or jellyfish UAPs are present as well, characterized by a central mass from which multiple arms or spars hang downward. Okay, so that's exactly what we're seeing here. This is one spar or arm, but in the original there's two, and in that one it's not moving at all. Let's see, there are a few that I have shared here. This one right here, this one completely changes its entire shape, its entire geometry. It's so weird. Let's see. I'm not that prepared in sharing a video today. I just really wanted to hop on real fast and discuss this with you all. But again, all of you guys can seriously go to the plasmoid anomaly study group and just go through these and see them yourself. You know, like, I'm so sick and tired of people putting down that guy's videos when he has over 2,000 videos of these things, you know, documented with super high-tech equipment, you know, dual optic systems, a dome that he created himself, you know, sonar, radar. Like, dude's legit, and his videos are legit, right? All right, so yeah, so the reason why I was showing this was for the perspective manipulation. So what people will tend to do is they'll try and come in at you with a form of, like, you know, humorous or degrading character assassination. You know, they'll say something, you know, jokingly, and then all of a sudden a bunch of other people come in and say that, and then there's this whole mob mentality thing, right? And then so how this affects, you know, disclosure for the public is that, let's say if somebody comes along and they see this video or this post and they see, oh, well, look at all these people bashing this guy, you know, they'll, you know, won't even give it much attention, even though the evidence that the individual is showing could be 100% real, right? And that's just the one thing that really, like, grinds my gears, irks me about this whole phenomena and disclosure thing, is that people tend to only want to listen to the talking heads, right? Whenever somebody says, you know, a prominent figure in the, you know, UFO community says something, all of a sudden it's, you know, accepted gospel. It's okay to think this now. You know, this person said this. We can think this, right? You know, they need, like, Big Daddy to come and hold their hand and guide them into this thinking manner, right? So, for instance, this person, Congressman Eric Burlison, claims he was informed about 4 types of alien species during meetings in his office, right? So this is a pretty, you know, I think this has been out for a couple weeks now, but, you know, Greys, Nordics, reptilians, and insectoids, right? But what is interesting is here where he says the congressman also discussed the intriguing possibility that UFO phenomena may be related to other dimensions or even entities that some traditions describe as angels, suggesting that the issue goes beyond conventional science, right? And I think that he discussed that with Gary Nolan. I remember seeing that guy's name somewhere around here, but I'm not seeing it right now. It may have been in another one, but right. What is interesting about this is, you know, this whole dimensional aspect, right? And what I've been trying to share and put out into the world is that these things are, you know, they are coherent plasmas from the ether, right? This page right here discusses how these things come about, how they feed on, you know, electromagnetic energy, heat, and other stuff. They even go through the STS-75 and a couple other of those STS mission videos showing that these little things, I'll share the video too for everybody to see when I finally post this, but showing how these things are changing directions, they're stopping on a dime, they're, you know, congealing together, they're separating, these aren't just dust or, you know, what people say they're ice, right? And that's another thing about the whole thinking thing. You show this video and you show, even when people will literally draw the lines out for people to see, you know, their path, right, their trajectory, showing them that they are, you know, curving, they're turning, they're stopping, they'll immediately say, you know, that I remember some dude, he sent me a video or a link to this one video of a guy who literally all he did was he replicated one of the shapes that were in the video, completely ignoring the thousands of other things that were in it, right? It was kind of ridiculous, honestly. And he's like, you see, this is what it is, right? And it's like, all that person did was replicate one thing, you know. It doesn't prove anything. It just shows that this guy can do, like, arts and craft, right? He's not proving anything. And your layperson or your typical individual will see that and they'll say, oh well, solved, problem solved, doesn't matter anymore, whatever, right? And I really think that's just lazy thinking. And it's the same type of thinking that we see when we approach the megalithic structures and the ancient precision that is all over the world. People listen to the academic assertion or the narrative that they're toting, and that's it. Well, looks like they did this with pounding stones and flint and steel. Meanwhile, these things are having geometric characteristics and precision that are on par with our space station, with the Hubble telescope, right? Like, there's no possible way that humans can make this with hands, especially not with pounding stones and copper or flint, right? And the same type of rigid thinking is here in the UFO field. So yeah, like I said, there are videos of people, like this picture that I just showed, drawing the lines, showing that these things have a curved trajectory, right? They're not moving in a straight line, and there's a lot of other weird things that they do where they multiply or they split into two, like right here, this one. You see you got 1, 2, boom, boom, and there's like some sort of like, it's like an energy cannibalism or something like that. I don't know. These things are super, super weird and super interesting. And everybody, please go and read this paper and look into it yourself, because it's honestly kind of unbelievable, right? Like, these things just exist. But so what else did I wanted to share with you guys? Oh, here we go. This is another interesting thing right here that a lot of people just seem to have forgotten about is the CIA secret office has conducted UFO retrieval missions on at least 9 crash sites around the world, right? This is a paper that was pretty old. I think it was last year, but in the paper they discussed that the OGA, Office of Global Access, has the ability to discern cloaked craft, right? Like, that is a big thing right here. You guys aren't going to be able to see that whole thing here. Let's see. See if I can open this up. Come on. All right. I don't know why it's not working. Let's see. Maybe like this. No. Dang it. I'm not really sure. Oh, well, that's fine actually. Systems in place that can discern UFOs while they're cloaked, right? So if you guys remember, there was this recent thing that came out here. I'll try and find it for us right now. Let's see, UFOs. What was it? Let's see. We'll go here. These transient illuminant objects is what people were talking about seeing. Of course, it's going to take forever for everything to load. Let's see. It should come up because people have been talking about it a lot, and I've been thinking about this for a while now. Not all this, not all this. Michigan State also paper. Yeah, the Atlas thing is pretty interesting, and it's kind of crazy that Ross Coulthard is like against sending the Juno spacecraft up to intercept it. Like, I swear, and Ross Coulthard is another one of those people who are a talking head, right? If he says something, the community automatically, just steps in line. He's like, yup, this is okay to think now, right? Let's see if I can find it. Dang it. It might be a little too hard for me to find this thing. Alright, I think I can just edit everything in post after. Wait, here. Oh, my computer's so slow. Alright, so I'll keep talking and trying to find this, but while I'm talking, here. These pictures right here, this one is from Trevor James Constable, who was taking these pictures with a IR camera, right, back in like the 1960s. And these are the plasmas that he was seeing, infrared. He was taking pictures. And these are, you know, your mini saucer photos from like the 1970s and before, you know, going back to 1950s. And they really look similar. It's pretty crazy that all of these, you know, things are just out here. There's so much information on this topic that, you know, people should be able to connect the dots from all these little things and put the picture together, but nobody is able to do that. And I think that that's a problem, and that stems from people not really knowing how to think, right? Like they want it cut and dry, right? Given to them right then and there. And yeah, I don't know. You know, people just need to realize how to do that again, how to connect the dots, how to put the picture together themselves instead of relying on somebody else who could have, you know, an ulterior motive. You know, they could have their own agenda. They could have their own narrative that they want to, you know, push out. And then all the people who are too lazy to think for themselves or to just dig 2 inches deeper into a topic are going to just fall into that, right? And then what makes it worse is that we have this almost like tribal mob mentality where anything else is in a dissenting opinion and it can't be true. And they won't even look at the evidence. They won't even observe another idea, right? Which effectively puts that person in a prison. Because if you're never looking at dissenting opinions or ideas, you're never going to grow or have another idea, right? You're just going to be stuck in this little world that whoever you're listening to is giving you that information. Yeah, it's kind of messed up, and you know, people don't even realize that. I can't believe it, you know. And here we go. This is the new paper right here. So let's move all these again. There we go. Try and make it look nice, you know. Alrighty. So yeah, we found trillions of them all over the world. You know, trillions of these things that, who is this? NASA affiliate product, aerospace engineer Richard Bondurek, who worked on Lockheed Systems and flight software for the European Clipper missile mission, started talking about materials recovered during classified research. So materials recovered, we can refer back to the OGA, you know, Office of Global Access, and this is the, you know, operation that would retrieve these cloaked craft, you know, where these cloaked craft. I know I read cloaked in this somewhere. Again, like I said, I'm just trying to do this pretty fast. Right here. You know, it's the exact same. You know, OGA, we have what they were able to find with that program, right? So, you know, apparently they have these little things that are just flying around all over the world. They're able to, there's some sort of exotic material, and they can, you know, they break down self-modifying tech, you know, some invisible. He said they could cool their surroundings try to resemble or split apart and vanish when studied. Just kind of wild, right? Yeah, so yes, he says trillions of these things, right? And what's really, really interesting about all this is that Gary Nolan actually funded, here, I'll show you guys right now, funded this individual on YouTube for a new drone to help him film these things. And now I first heard about Gary Nolan funding somebody who was studying the shadow biosphere about 3 years ago from an Event Horizon podcast where he was talking about the shadow biosphere. And I'd always thought that he was talking about the plasmoid anomaly study group, because I realized, like, oh, well, that dude stopped recording right about the same time that Gary Nolan had said this. Maybe he, signed some NDA, or, it's now classified material. But this individual right here, let's open it up, recently made a post saying, thank you, Gary Nolan, for the drone to help him film these things. And when you look at his videos, I mean, they're really astounding, honestly. And he has 299 of these, and the way that he shows them is he does these kind of like I wouldn't call it like stop motion, but almost like time-lapse photos where you can see all of these things and their movements and their shapes. Like, this is another great example. I mean, when you show people these, they say, what am I looking at? This is an art project, right? And those people just ignore the fact that the elementals in the shadow biosphere, like in all of his posts, he discusses, what he's doing and everything like that. Like, I swear, like, people just, they ignore the evidence even though it's right in front of them. You can literally show them truth, but if it goes against their point of view or their accepted perspective on reality, they can't see it. Almost like they're blind, right? Almost like there's like a force field in front of them that prevents them from even comprehending what you're showing them. And it's a problem. It's a real problem with the UFO thing, because what the DoD is gonna most likely end up doing is they're going to just use the UFO subject as a means to get more money. They're going to be like, oh, we need more money for these trillions of tiny little UFOs that are all over the place. These interdimensional beings that some people, in the past have called angels. We need money to protect you. Your skies aren't safe, right? But in reality, like, the truth is something so much more human, right? It's literally connected to us, right? Like, this interdimensional aspect, that's the ether, that's the 0 point. That's how we can get things like free energy. That's how ESP, telepathy, remote viewing works, because our consciousness is connected to this field, to this dimension, and we are able to access it and traverse it. This almost like a gateway that is connected to every single other part of the universe. And they want to take that and turn it into something disgusting, pervert it, just like much of our natural world and reality has become. It's just a perversion of what it was originally, right? And what the ancient humans originally saw. You have megalithic structures that are geodesically aligned all around the world, utilizing piezoelectric rocks, quartzite, granite, that were connecting to the earth and pulling energy, but they just kind of ignore all this stuff. They say, oh no, the pyramid complex, it's tombs, it's for a pharaoh. This pharaoh just had a huge ego and he built this incredible thing, right? And what's interesting is that's actually no more. Like, the tomb theory has been thrown out because of a team of Italian scientists that went against the Antiquities of Egypt Council and scanned the pyramid complex utilizing SAR satellite systems. And now we know that there are structures all underneath the pyramids, right? That go like a mile deep, you know. And it's not just at the complex, the Giza complex. It's at many other sites. So, you know, they're definitely not a tomb for a pharaoh. You know, there's something else going on. And it just sucks that people literally have to break the law to get this truth out. Like, we're kind of still living in the same era, thought patterns as Galileo. You know, people don't want to look through the telescope. People don't want to accept that the Earth isn't in the center of the universe, and it's sad. And so I hope what I've shared with you guys today about how you can think about these things and you can spot the perspective manipulation if you're ever looking at information and you see, you know, a really good example is, let's say if there's like a whistleblower or somebody posts a UFO video online, right, telling this story or showing this video, immediately you'll have, like, you know, 20 people bashing it, making fun of it, throwing sexual humor at it, which kind of dumbs down people whenever they get into that mood. They're not thinking intellectually, which is a tactic that they use. Like, there are, you know what? I'll show you one more thing because I really think that it's important. So there are actually papers that go over how they are to approach, you know, stigmatizing this topic or stigmatizing the UFO topic in general, right? Like, how do we destroy the UFO topic, or how do we prevent information from getting out that is real? They have all this stuff, you know, already figured out and locked down. Let's see if I can find where I had it. Here we go. Yeah, some argument, or I don't even really get into arguments. I just kind of try and share the information with individuals and try and help them see, right? But yeah, so I think they're saying, who is the they you're talking about who is keeping us away from this information? And, you know, here we go, you know, counterintelligence memo allegedly involving Gary Nolan. If we can get people to laugh at the subject, then we've done our job, right? So remember, utilizing that humorous aspect to kind of take away from intellectual thought. And the same thing goes with, you know, sexual thought, perverting it, really, you know. Here we go. U.S. Navy DoD Silence and Suppression Post 2004, Project Blue Book and Condon Report, you know, CIA Psychological Operations, SOM 101, Majestic 12 Group, Special Operations Manual. I think in that one they basically go over how they're supposed to handle if somebody starts releasing real information. And then my favorite, and I think the one that's the most telling, is the JNAP 146. Directly required that UFOs be reported as vital intelligence sightings, triggering immediate communication protocols up the chain of command. According to ufologist Donald Keyhole, this directive effectively muzzled pilots. Non-compliance could bring legal penalties, prison, or fines per espionage status. Reports were routed exclusively via this channel rather than public or civilian systems. So yeah, if any pilots or any military people were to see something, boom, you have JNAP 146, which effectively stops them. You know, it's like $10,000 if you tell, and like, you know, I think 10 years in federal prison because of espionage, right? But before this, they only had the JNAP amendment, which kind of prohibited them from talking about it whenever they were in the project. But people, once they got out of the project or out of the military, they started talking about it, and so then they changed it to JNAP 146. So yeah, I just wanted to share all this and let you guys know that there is a concerted effort to control reality and control the way that you think around the topic of UFOs, ancient civilizations, the true human organism and spiritual body, the plasma body that we all have. And the keys to unlocking the truth are within your grasp. All it takes is independent thought and independent research, looking through all the evidence, observing dissenting opinions, and then cross-verifying them with other information. And from that, you can connect dots and you can come to a conclusion of truth, right? Until more evidence is provided. And I think that that's a lost skill and a lost art that many have lost, and they just want to be handed it to them on a silver platter and say, all right, this is what you're thinking now, all right? But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'm gonna go skate right now. Much love. Peace out.